So as our final talk today, we're very lucky to welcome Annie Honarchian from St. Louis University. Now, Annie is an assistant professor of theological studies and works on social, political, and religious development in late antiquity, focusing particularly on the interchange interaction between the Roman and Sasanian empires and Armenia. And today we're going to be hearing on the talk entitled Bad Seeds and Sacred Fires, Religious Defiance and Imperial Contamination in 5th Century Armenia, which is particularly interesting to me. So I'm, without further ado, going to hand over to you, Annie, to take it away.
Hey, great. I think we saw each other at Leeds, right? You came to the talk I did jointly with Kate.
Yes.
So, you know, I like things contaminated. Okay, so the topic is bad seeds and sacred fire and this religious defiance of the Armenians. And, you know, Garsoyan writes beautifully about this dual place of Armenians that are kind of mixing and borrowing both Iranian things and Christian things to like give you a narrative. And I'm a historian of religion, I'm not a theologian, and I like when things get messy. So I really like the talk that about the two talks before Daniel's talk about irrationality. And I really appreciate this article by Catherine Chin, who writes about radiant historiography, that things are messy and confusing and illogical. Just because we want to impose logic on things doesn't make them make sense to us. So I like when things are messy, chaotic, and I welcome it. It's the way history has been understood, the word has been understood, and I honestly care more about how these people saw the word and are talking to us about this word than how we feel about them feeling. So that's a pretext. And apologies for me to be kind of a simple believer, to go with like Jack Talus's word, that I'm like accepting the text as it is. Okay, bad seeds. In Sasanian social structure, and this is the beautiful work of Maria Matsukh, your legal place is determined by a series of things, by birth, rank, religion, citizenship, gender, and age. So you can graduate from being like under 15, which is like pre-puberty for boys in Zoroastrian context, but you can never graduate from being a woman. You're always a woman. Again, with birth, the same issue. So your birth, you cannot change it. Religion, on the other hand, is matter of teaching, education. It can be amended. So with that in mind, I want to like look at the way she kind of categorized them, and she's using this a lot from like the Persian like legal text, like Madyan Hezardastan and all of that, that you have freeborn or azad who are, and then slaves who are anshahrik, they're not from, literally not from the city, or bandak, they're banned or bounded. And then you have Zoroastrian who are vehden, who are good religion, and agden, that is translated as infidel, but really it means bad religion or false religion. So now the rank is basically determined by a series of these like categories, and social mobility between these states are very limited. So there's a story in Tabari about like dabirs, who are the scribes, who want to be categorized, kind of get out of the artisan craftsman kind of category and be considered azad and not pay taxes. And Khosrow Parviz is like asking, who is demanding this? And he's bringing this guy, come over and said, and I said, who are you? He said, I'm dabir, and immediately kills him. Like no transgression of such sort. Like, and you can read this about this dabir text in Geislen and Khorshidyan's article, but seals of dabirs is very interesting. But like how much we do not understand or cannot like figure out these class formations, and we have to just accept the text that is telling us it's not doable. Iterate. So in order to place your claim in this empire, you have to have good seeds. There's no like confusion about that. Matsukh kind of goes with the story of genealogy of the Sasanian king. The first one, the founder, Ardashir. 4 different sources give us 4 different genealogies. He's a son of Sasan, grandson of Papak. How is this happening? This is a fictive marriage, which is Saturi, which is when your wife just becomes pregnant through another man, but the child is still yours. So it's kind of adoption, or surrogacy marriage, or it is actual paternity. And the Arabic sources just like figure it out, like Tabari figures out as like a grandson situation. Matsuk says that these stories, it doesn't matter which one, there is no truth to this. What matters is what I try to tell you with these stories, so that they're blending historical reality and legal construct to create this legitimacy. And they're skipping over Parthians or Arsacids to land on the Achaemenids legacy, because Sasanians see themselves as continuation of the Achaemenids in some ways. And they're doing it through different legal strategies that are acceptable for them, but we are like very confused about them. So this is a Sasanian work, so I have to read some Persian, like bear with me. This is in Ferdowsi, kind of like the last book, when Bahram Chubin is kind of confronting Khosrow in this like last rebellion of Bahram Chubin. So he's a general from Mehran family. He has no place to like claim to be the king, but he does it anyway. So چو بهرام روی شهنشه دید شد از خشم رنگ رخش ناپدید از آن پس چنین گفت با سرکشان که ای روس بیزاده بدنشان. So this is my translation. It's like he said, this guy face got so angry and said, you rebel, you son of a prostitute. This is the only time that Ferdowsi used Rusbi or prostitute. You have bad omen. And then for 20 pages they go back and forth, kind of dismissing each other. It says as بدتنان بودی و بی بنان. Tan and bun have legal construct, like meaning in like one is from tan, from body, you're genealogically connected, or you're from bone, from like fictive marriages, kind of you're connected. And as تخم ساسان رسیدی به نان, like you did not arrive to the bread, like literally naan, from the تخم ساسان, which is like the seed of Sasan. Didn't you get to all of this from our generosity? بدو گفت بهرام که در جهان شبانی ز ساسان نگردد نهان. So Bahram told him, like, even if you are a shepherd, you cannot hide, you're royal. There's no hiding it. برا گفت خسرو که دارا بمرد نتاج بزرگی به ساسان سپرد. Like, Khosrow told him Dara, which is Dariush, died, but didn't he bestow the crown to Sasan? So like they jump over. So this is a story that telling each other, it arrived to like 10th century Ferdowsi, this connection. اگر بخت گم شد کجا شد نژاد. So okay, you're lost, your bacht, your luck is lost, your fate is lost, but you have nejad, which is like literally your race, your lineage, you still have it. So do not make an unjust thing just. You know what I mean. I know what you mean. I have the lineage, you don't. And it goes on and on. Bahram's sister gets into the game and says, oh my God, like, you know, you don't deserve to be a king and all of that. So this genealogy matters for the Sasanian. It matters at the beginning. It matters in the end. Anyway, have this in mind, especially Tokhme Sasan and the Nan, like the duality. So what do Armenians do? They want to claim some nobility through their lineage, specifically because they know themselves as like connected to this Parthian Iranian kin, the Arsacids, but they also are now Christian. So it's a Venn diagram of like, are you one of us or not one of us? This is Houston map of Greater Armenia. So our Arsacids were more or less there from 1st century to the 5th century with this claim to legacy and legitimacy through Parthians. But the Sasanian, who are kind of diagonally opposing Parthian, this is harder to kind of hold on to. The second king of the Sasanian, Shapur I, put an end kind of in a way to Arsacid's claim to royalty by imposing his son Hormuz I, Hormuz Ardeshir, as the king of Armenia under pretext of their vassal in Armenia. They're like, they did Romans to harm Armenia. I have to directly be there. Someone has to be directly there. This is from the column 9, and then like the last towards the end, like column 37 of the Shapur's Kabe Zartosht in Nakhsh Jahan. Narse, the second, like another son of Shapur, was then kind of took the throne after his brother. now the king of the Sasanian, and this is during his time, and he coincides with Diocletian that they got kind of baptized and was converted to Christianity through the effort of Gregory the Illuminator. And you can see like there's a whole Agathon story about his lineage and all of that. But so I'm preaching to the choir, but what choir doesn't need preaching? He is a bore because he killed Ripsime and her companion, this like beautiful virgin that was escaping Rome from Diocletian kind of persecution. And his sister sees this dream that there's a man that you imprisoned in the Horvirab in this like dungeon. Go bring him up and he'll kind of save you. And Gregory comes and saves him and all of that. And this is from a 19th century, like 16th century manuscript, like the Boar and the Gregory. So he looms large, and all is happening during the reign of Narse. Thompson studied this 4 like different versions of Agathon and tells us that the Armenian sources really care about genealogy of the Gregory as a royal person from Parthian Arsacid heritage. Kind of embarrassing how he pulls it up, but either way, Syriac and Arabic texts do not care about this place, this like backstory for him. So you can read about this like genealogy making in Thompson's, like the one that has all the books. Either way, Armenian society, kind of like Sasanians, have this structure, Metzametsk or Naharar, then under them are freemen, then under them Alazat or Shiragans, and Mamikonian have a good game going. They were commander of the army, then Bagratunis are crown bearers. Gregory's then became the family from these lines, and eventually they will link themselves through marriages with Mamikonian, and every patriarch of Armenian church is coming from this family until the reign of Bahram IV, that he puts an end to it. And again, social mobility is not that easy to like do without claim to genealogy. Christianity in Armenia is tied to royal authority from its inception. This is not a Syriac church that bishops have to like, with some gymnastic, try to like claim some place and connect themselves to the King of Kings to get their place of power. They already are starting with endowed land at Daranqik and Ashtisha. This is to the east of Lake Van, east-north, and then they have ruled this is Garsoyan's work through Atnos, that like they have these princely domains, and one of the children of the owner of this Tanuter, this like house, becomes a bishop, and then he just like heirs this land. He like endowed land is not going to random places. Each bishop is coming from one of these specific families. So they're already rooted. They have endowment with them. So this is the same case as Maruta. He is not a nobody. He is in Sofene, but his father was the owner of the land that he's from. So they have to like do this like facelift and become more appealing to Christianity. And I did this Maruta work basically through Elizabeth Foden, like Barbarian Land, and I'm very grateful for her. Whenever I have to give a talk, I have to take Elizabeth Foden for her contribution on Barbarian Land and like the movement of people. So either way, this is the land that Armenian nobility, Armenian now bishop nobility lineage are on. Like you see how close it is to Rome. So this will become a problem once during the Shapur II time, that 363 battle with the Julian, that kind of started the kind of procession that eventually 387 will divide Rome and divide Armenia between Rome and Sasanian control. So a lot of this departure that kind of started with lands like Rome coming too close to Armenia. And at 387, in order to like stop this chaos, Theodosius I and Shapur III kind of divide Armenia into like big, weaker Armenia, and then like more like bigger, major kind of greater Armenia and Persian Armenian side. So you can see how a lot of this land are now lost, kind of, or like too close to Rome. This is Arsacid map of Houston, and then this is kind of the Persia Armenia. Like this is like a lot of territories are now like in precarious place. This is the lines of 387. And this is like interesting that this territory, are owned by Gregory Mamikonians through marriages. And so when this is like one, so when Mamikonians are angry at the Persians and they go to east, they're just going to their own lands. They're not going somewhere precarious, but their own land isn't where Romans are. They have to be there because this is their land. Either way. So Shapur's second reign ends with like 3 of his sons like kind of coming and going really fast, and then Yazgir the first kind of established himself relatively long time. He has good relationship with Rome. Maruta is coming. First Synod of the Church of East is happening, very much like aligning the church, not like the bishops of the Sasanian Iran, with the creeds of the Nicene creeds. And the second synod is happening 10 years after that, again in Ctesiphon. Not that much difference in the organization, just like following things through. The synod that is happening under Bahram is kind of chaotic, really 4 years after, at Markabata of Arabs, far from the center of the power. And this is, Brock says this is the beginning of the departure. So Dadisho says, we no longer can commune with the Western Father. We have to just do our own thing in order to gain the suspicion, like the fifth column, like worries. They worry that they worry, so we worry. So they said, like, no more of that. Let's not just say we are in commune. And so this is the more or less the last synod of this era. So the next one will be 60 years from now, and like when they will just accept the kind of the doctrine of Theodosius of Moxuestia. This is Bahram. I mean, I love this because there's such Arabness to him, because he, according to Tabari, he raised up in the Arab tribes, and he has this like his lover Azadeh at his back, and then he also is stomping Azadeh at the same time in this like Razm and Bazm, in this like fun hunting game. Again, to show manliness, going kind of emphasizing what Khodadat was saying, he's quite a character, and his idea that he has and who he is kind of matched on Bahram Chubin too. This is very confusing, but there is like things that match with both of them in some ways, either way. So going back to what is happening in Armenia, so 424, this like now we are in the third generation of the Armenian Gregory Patriarch line. So Gregory came, Narse is there, and then he demised, and then Sahak is the last kind of Gregory Patriarch. And in Khazar, he's having this vision that his line will end, and he's lamenting that, and he's extremely sad about it. But he sees, much like Isaiah's vision, he sees some like prediction that what is going to happen. But yep, like Khazar is writing this knowing what is going to happen. So it all makes sense. So Bahram put an end to the first Gregory Armenian Patriarchate. So that line is end through sending 2 Syrian bishops, Surmak and Brixo, and later Samuel. They are kind of seeking to like interfere with the royal line, and like proposing together with the nobles that we should replace Artashat as the like son of Varamshapu. He's awful. And again, you can read it in Khornati, like the vocabulary they use to describe this man is so interesting. And then this petition get accepted eventually, and they put an end, Antilis is 428, put an end to both lines. Like, eventually, first it was Sahak, and then the end of the Arsacids. So this was not that bad for the Armenians, especially the nobility. They now have direct line to be kind of directly under the king. They don't have this like immediate, like kind of intermediate king figure, and they become Marsbanite after that. But who will be the Marsban? And this is where nobility kind of gets more aggressive to each other. And I think there was a battle between House of Syunik, who's like in modern Syunik, like in like south of Armenia, near the border of the natural border of like Lake Arax, and then Mamikonian and Grigorid family, who will be the Marsban. And I think a lot of this like tension builds up pre the war at 451, pre-Avarai, and then after. And this is like, now there are like, they lost a lot of their territories are kind of in precarious place. And this is Sunni, so they are more safe here, the Sunni people, but they, Mamikonian have to make sense of themselves. And this is more important for Mamikonian to kind of bring out all they have. So Mamikonians are connected to the Gregorids through an Armenian bishop's marry, but they marry for a very short time, and then both wife and husband just seclude themselves. It happened with Gregory, it happens with Narses Sahak, so on and so forth. So Sahak is married to Armenian Mamikonian noblewoman, has a daughter, Sahak Anush and Bartav. Then Sahak Anush marries Hamazas Mamikonian. Then Hamazas has two children, Hamayag and Vartan Mamikonian, and then Hamayag has Vahan, and Vartan has Shushanik, who is a huge saint in Gregorian and Armenian kind of tradition. So this is their family tree. So now they're joined. Now ecclesiastical and military is in one family, and it all kind of boils down to Vartan kind of placing himself kind of in this ward, and then Vahan finding a resolution. So Yazgird II, when he came to power, he has, as this is Khoradad's beautiful work, that he has to kind of make sense of the Heptalite. He moved his headquarters to Neyshabur, and he chose the coin that says Kian on it. This is, Khoradad argues that he's doing this to one up the Heptalite who are already using this. Turaj Daryai says that he's using this to connect himself to this mythical Kianid dynasty, but either way, he's worried about Heptalite. And Heftalites are so Central Asian, far from him, and he's establishing like a city in Neyshabur. So if one of this enemy is too strong, his supporters are too willy-nilly, and these are Armenian, Iberians, Albanian, Caucasians, and then people of Kirkuk. You can, all these four communities more or less have to be conforming to Yazgird II if he has to go to war. And you can read about the Syriac side of things from History of Kirkuk Seluk. This matches, and MacDonald wrote about this convincingly, that they have to like bring all these people like kind of aligned. Well, how did they do that? Mehnase, his Wazir, says that this is according to Yerishe, that they have to consider the salvation of the souls. So first, we have to know who we are. Like, we have to be worshiping the same God if you're going to war. And I love this because I love Depth, the first 5,000 years by David Graeber, and he says for us is profit and taxes, shahids and harkats. We care about what we earn, but for gods, they care about the salvation of the. So it's like, I like this pairing. So we render them familiar to our religion, and then we have no worries. They will all kind of conform to us. And like modern historians write about this as if Armenian did not already said that. It's like, oh, Armenians are so lost. This will benefit them in the war. It's like, but they already said that. Either way. So Armenians wrote this letter, the bishops and their kind of cousins and their brothers who are the military. They said, to implement your will and order fully, we agree with that. To serve you not only with material expenses, by Sutzachivk, but also with Zairun Anzans Amerots, for our own blood, Yevorti Iverad Zerdene. So with our own blood and our children's blood, we will put it on you. Like, we will do it. But
So have we lost
The connection, I'm afraid.
connection? Yeah.
Hopefully she is back soon. Sorry, there must have been some interruption on the connection on the other end of the Atlantic Ocean, but we hope that Annie will.
Well, Annie is actually here. She just muted.
But she's
I can see her on the right-hand side. at the
and
top.
also stopped presenting though.
Yes, but we might need to give her back the power.
Annie, can you hear us?
yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So you are back. There was some interruption. Thank you.
Where were we? Where did I lose you?
You were just talking about these families giving their shedding our blood and blood of our sons for your
Okay,
sake.
great. But concerning our salvation of our Hoki, you don't worry about that. So this is another way of saying, render to Caesar what is Caesar's due, but to God what is God's due. Our soul is not due to you. We are not giving it to you. So they reject this idea. Yazgir doesn't have any of that. He says, come back, come, I will have to like discuss this with you. He forced them into this like pretend or real conversion in house, takes them to the house of ashes. In appearance, some of them convert, and then they just like go on with their life. Some of them converted in appearance, some of them sincerely accepted Zoroastrianism. And there's all this like idea that I'll get into, that first he forced these people, and then he sent a huge group of magi to them, to Armenia, to spread the good religion, and then build number of temples. So he says, if we accept Khazar's story, eventually at Zarevan, soldiers kind of on their own, without kind of discussing the military, even though everyone was lamenting this movement, they killed 9 magi's and throw fire into the water. And this is kind of, there is no coming back from this. A series of things happened, damage, all of that, treachery, Vasaksiyun is involved. Either way, war happens, Armenian, Mamikonian, a lot of Mamikonian, Hamazas, Vartan, all of these people died. And historiography, like both Khazar and Yerisha, are trying to and we Armenians accept this, I accept this, that their momentary apostasy should be forgiven by their blood, because they died as martyrs. Like blood of martyr will change everything. So it's a kind of a forgiveness moment. But I want you to think of this, and then if you're working on like Syriac bishops, see how this is not the same type of Christianity we're talking about. Like, and Yerisha is using a lot of like Maccabees, like martyrdom of Simon Bar Saba is using a lot of Maccabees, but they have different idea of like what this Maccabean revolt means. For Armenian, they're actually going to war and they're dying. For Syriac, it's very metaphoric. And they're like their death is in the court as persecution, as martyrs witnessing the fate. But this is actual war. So aftermath of the war was horrible. A lot of like Mamikonian were necessary to go for war for the Hephthalites. Sunni gets the blame for all of this mess. But eventually, in 30 years, so a generation after that, nephew of Vartan, Vahan, make a treaty with Balakh at Varsag, and claim that and gets this idea of a religious autonomy as far as we're giving your blood. So this is how this was, again, his Khazar, and this is how it was negotiated according to Khazar, who is writing for Vahan. He's commissioned to write this. And I love this because it's so insane. So now as for Armenia, such a great and useful land, show me a man in which a land who has attained Tanut Eruchun, worthy to royal favor. So Arjana Vortakabarucham. So if we invent superior royal qualities, they are brigged and despicable mimel avazagev on pitan, there are hatskatak, bread moocher, and vattohmik. They're bad seeds who came and cheat such a great kingdom, Chapan, and they buy the glory, far, park, literally, paras, and lordship with fire. This is, if you remember what was the back and forth between Bahram and Chubin, again, the idea of like, we are good seeds. The people who agree with you and come with you and convert to Zoroastrianism, they're bad seed. And they arrive to this bread, again, like kind of like this idea of like, you can never trust these people who change color too fast. Either way. So now what to do? Like, you accepted these people because they pretended that they worship fire, but this is exactly what is happening. And this is absolutely the state of mixture and discussion, disgust that Zoroastrian like function on like purity too. This disgust about like fire being contaminated, and Gazar goes all the way in there. Going a little aside from you, their mezen ikra get pin the fire and throw their experiment in the ember, and they become enemies of the merchant and the matter they bought. So zavajara masin tishnamanan. So no doubt about that. So you bought yourself this unsavory people that now are contaminating your royal fire. Make a deal with us. We are good seed, and we will die for you, and we will stay in our literally an Iran board without contaminating you, and we will die for you. So this is a good deal. So the passage, I find it so glamorous and beautiful. Again, like hitting all these marks about vahto, about bread being valuable, about like fear of contamination. And at 484, Vahan Mamikonian was appointed as a marsman of Armenia and kind of led the Mamikonian through like a lot of battle, like probably for the Hephthalites, and kind of it's also like this whole story is kind of restoring that vision that Sahak has, and Garsoyan wrote about that finally the Arsacid line will be restored through Sahaks, through Mamikonian, and do not fear that we do not have an Arsacid in our mix. We have the seed continues to this like connection and marriages. Okay, that's my talk. Thank you so much, and I'm done.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for that, Annie. And I think we have a real, we've come full circle in some senses. Because I heard a lot of similar, I think, ideas that we've discussed right at the beginning. Now we have a question in the chat. And I also have a question, so maybe we'll start with this chat question and see if anyone in the room has one. So it's Amir who says, did the centralization of fires under Sasanians and the extinguishing of fires of the kings play a role in compelling the Arsacids of Armenia to devise a new set of Christian practices as a measure of protection or a hedge? And I need to scroll down for the rest, but I think that's a good place to start.
How to answer this? Yeah, like people do not want land to be marked in a way that is not acceptable to them. And there are Armenian, like this is what me and Touraj talk about, they are Armenian who wholeheartedly accept Zoroastrianism, and they think this is a good deal. But the house that will overpower them, again, through ideology of Christianity, is the house of Mamikonian.
Yes.
And it's, I don't know, but like I think we should just like read the source and just accept what they're telling us as like with some massaging it. It was like, no, there were, and it's hard to hear the voices that are shut down again, but I
Yes.
think there are houses that even House of Sunik is not like House of Sunik goes back and like get this agreement with Yazgir II to continue Christianity. It says in Ghazar that Vasak got the first agreement, but who wins this? Who brings this home? It matters that it has to be Mamikonian, and they go for it. Vasak is not. Vasak dies, like he gets killed by Yazgir, but he doesn't die as martyr because it's a word of word making and martyr making, going back to like this is a martyr making, and who becomes a martyr is decided by who is writing this, and yeah.
Yes, I mean, a question I had, thinking of the Mamikonians, is you mentioned their split lands, that they are between the Roman and the Sasanian, and this means they need to construct their identity. And I was wondering, do you think this has anything to do with the fact that the vast majority of Armenian histories we have from this period we have so many Mamikonian partisan histories, and we really don't have anything for, say, the Cyrenaic or any other family until much later.
Yeah, we have to wait for Stunic. We have to wait for Orbelians. We have to wait for Kate Franklin to take over the Stunics. Yeah, it's a time of Mamikonian, and then it will be time of Bagratid and Hornets is writing. So we have to. It's their time.
Yes.
But they run themselves out by being too good at fighting. They ran out of men. They give too much blood.
Yes, they do just disappear in the end. Do we have any other questions from the audience at all? Well, I don't see any other hands, so I'm going to be a bit cheeky and ask another one then. And you talked about this difference in Armenian and Syriac, the way they use the Maccabees, for example. And I'm wondering, is this a matter of geography? I mean, it's much easier to lead a rebellion against the Sasanians when you're over in the mountains and they're way over here than it is if you're a Syriac church where they're just down the river from you and they can be there in a matter of hours. And maybe it's just not possible.
Church is not a church that has an army. Like, look at the Persian Martyr Acts. Like, initially, not until until some Zoroastrian convert to Christianity, and this is like later. This is a church of. This is harsh to say, but people who are brought into the empire as captives. They're artisan. They're silk dyer. They're not there to fight. If they're like until. We have like the legend of Mar Qabba that Joel Walker talks about. It creates a genealogy that's like too late. They know that's like the way to the heart of the Sasanian to create like idea of like nobility, and then they can negotiate. This is like what I like from Patricia Crone's book, that again, but when Arabs came, they saw Armenian on horses and they saw Syrians in their cities and in the heart of Sasanian. And it's for Arabs, if you are paycheck to paycheck, if you are wage worker, if you are a goldsmith and blacksmith, whoever, you are captive by nature. That's it. It's such a weird word that it's hard for the Syriacs to kind of negotiate a place in this world that values Razm and Bazm, hunting and gaming, partying on horses.
Yeah, and I think of a line in Hazar actually, where he puts in the mouth of Peroz. Peroz says, "Oh, the Syriac of all my people, the Syriacs are the worst and the weakest and the most useless of all of these hunting and war." And then because this is his period of bad seed Armenians, he says, "But the Armenians are even worse."
Armenians are even worse.
Yes, and they take the offense of this and bring it up later.
But like again, we are all in the world of the Sasanian. We are all negotiating with the big guy, but Armenians are negotiating with actual power. And I do not understand like McDonald's or Richard Payne's argument about power through negotiation. Like if the bishop from Mar Abba to Simon Bar Seppa, if it is affordable for empire to kill your bishop without any fear of rebellion, then you do not have power. Like, what are you going to do? Not send an ambassador? That's not a power. That's not a powerhouse. A power is like, it's such a weird thing. An actual power has to be more tangible. And I do not see that in Syriac church. I'm sorry.
No, it's do we have another question you said in the chat? Okay, so we have one more question in the chat.
Oh my God, I made chat people so fucked up.
Well, it's Peltakian says at the time, Baham was considered as the restorer of the Arshak dynasty, so the Arsacids. Nowadays, though, we consider the dynasty to have definitively ended in 428. Why so? When did we have a shift? Can we say?
Well, we can claim that they kind of are connected, or because again they're connected to the house of Gregory. Gregory is connected, is an Arsacid like Pahlav, Pahlavuni. So it's all goes back to Maria Matsuch argument that genealogies doesn't have to be genetically acceptable. They have to be fictive, and in that they're acceptable. And I do not care what I think or what you think about the actuality. It's not, I cannot take a DNA test and be like, they're not. This is what the word that they're making is telling us. So I think we have to accept the word that they're making as they are.
Yes.
Like how much we can find the sources. We have only like 5 sources. And from whichever angle we enter them, we will get our answer. This is like the beauty and the sadness of having very limited sources. So my angle is, I'm a simple believer. I'm like, you're telling me you must be.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good sort of addition to a thing I mentioned in my talk about this non-acceptance of Atahormizd Ashokan, because obviously he's a rival claimant to the Arsacids. Even the Mamikonians are also claiming that position. Just before we end, because I think we have time for, I realize I've gone on and dominated this, but do we have any more questions from the floor? Does anybody want to say any last word or?
I think we can maybe use this question that you just raised, Annie, of the power and of this proportion and like no proportion, sorry, their own word of what the Armenians and the Christian Armenian tradition represents and their political relations and military with the Sasanian state and the Syriac tradition. And when you were saying that, and like they kill a bishop and there is no rebellion, then there is no power. It's true, but it can also be. I don't know. Let's watch what happens on your side of the ocean now with all that is going on. I hear some of it's coming to modern politics, contemporary, for more than 20 years, there's kind of been an anticipation, a wait for some rebellion happening in the country I come from, and after the events of the last 3 years as well. It is a straightforward argument, but I fear it's a little bit of a too straightforward argument. And for the Christians in the Sasanian Iran that you mentioned, that it's later the powerful converts, but for the 5th century, this is what we have, as far as I understand, and with high positions in the political elites. It's maybe just another layer of our perception that then their deeds are presented to us through the martyr acts and that type of historiography that very specifically reflects a part and emphasizes this martyr and the narrative and so on and so forth. But we just don't have a part of this puzzle, I think.
I mean,
sorry, but I'm just inviting everyone to go on to the discussion. Yes, sorry, Annie.
Yeah, I think like the church, like the church is integrated, like the Church of the East becomes very integrated in the Sasanian world. And again, Matuk writes about like this reformation of Marabba, who I think the nobility, if there is a nobility, Christian nobility, who are late convert, they want to create fictive marriages to kind of preserve their house and property through this like reproductive labor that the women are doing. And Marabba says, no, we are not doing that. We are Christians and we just like marry whoever we are going to marry. And we do not have like make like a surrogacy marriage to like our inheritance to go to someone. So it's like really like, and that's like Marabba is like at the reign of the Khosrow Piruz. So I think there are nobility that wants to like gain some power through land holding, but the reforms of Marabba like kind of stops that. And he dies in exile. Like he has a martyrology, like he's not a martyr. He's a martyr of the Syriac church, but like he doesn't die. He doesn't die under persecution. But like there are, or like yeah, but they are later, and they're very like Piruz is like really like 20 years after an Islam is coming. Like that's too late to like get your act together. I don't know. You're right.
Yeah.
There are voices that are shoved down because who we are is like we are not converting out because someone died for us, and that's a strong message. Yeah.
Right. Shall we say thank you to Annie and begin our discussion then?
Thank you.